a good brand is something that you'll buy or use the service of, but you're actually buying the story. Follow your bliss means finding the core of passion and excellence within you. Now, for the first time, I think we have the opportunity to create a wisdom-based economy that actually serves the needs of society. By learning to reawaken your creativity, you will recapture the natural enthusiasm, energy, and wonder of youth.
He's an author and public speaker. He's a prominent figure in the New Age movement. Through his books and videos, he's become one of the most well-known and wealthiest figures in alternative medicine. He's Deepak Chopra, and here's my take on his top 10 rules for success. Rule number 10 is my personal favorite, and make sure to stick around all the way to the end for some special bonus clips.
What we see, what we perceive, what we hear, what we think, what we imagine, what we understand, what inspires us, all of that comes from belief. And then these beliefs project as our world. We actually create the world that comes from these inner beliefs. In turn, the world feedbacks on us. The world feeds back on us, and it reinforces what we already believe in. So we see what we become, and the world becomes who we are. If you talk to great leaders, and this is well-done research, even by Jim Collins, if you read his book, he says that every leader, in the end, says one of the following things: I was lucky, or I happened to be in the right place at the right time. There were a lot of meaningful coincidences. Now, if they happen to be spiritual or religious, they may use expressions like, God was on my side. I seemed to be guided. There was a state of grace at times. I was being looked after. What they're tapping into is a deeper intelligence that goes beyond the personal. You might call it transpersonal, or, as the transpersonal psychologists call it. Or you might call it archetypal if you're familiar with the teachings of Carl Jung. But what they do is they have a relationship with the story. That's what a good brand is, by the way. A brand is an archetypal story. It has themes in it. The good guys, the bad guys, there's a little bit of intrigue, there's mystery, there's adventure, all the ingredients that make a really good soap opera. And they have a relationship with that. And, a good brand is something that you'll buy or use the service of, but you're actually buying the story. Apple is a story. It's a very great story, and all the big brands, Nike shoes, it's the story of the African-American urban hero, So when one of the things I tell leaders to do is, what's your story? Okay, can you make your story emotionally and spiritually inspiring? And, people will buy your story as the brand, as the service, as the product. Follow your bliss does not mean get addicted to pleasure. Okay, follow your bliss means finding the core of passion and excellence within you. It is to pursue excellence and ignore success. And if you do that, of course, success will be a byproduct, but you're expressing the highest potential within yourself. And when you do that, you lose track of time. You experience ecstasy. And when you express that, there's a need in society for that particular expression. And when society sees that, it honors you. It makes you a hero. Yeah, the biggest challenge for all businesses is to restore real business. The economic meltdown was something that happened because we had lost the true purpose of business. What's the true purpose of business? Even in business school, it's not well defined. They say the purpose of a business is to increase shareholder value. That's a ridiculous thing. The purpose of business is to help society, to serve the needs of society. The purpose of business is to serve the interests of all that are considered stakeholders. That includes the community and the larger ecosystem. We created an economy which was based on spending money that people had not earned to buy things that they did not need to impress people that they did not like. Of the $2.9 trillion that are circulating in the world's markets, less than 2% was going to provide goods and services. The rest was what they call derivatives, casino. So now, for the first time, I think we have the opportunity to create a wisdom-based economy that actually serves the needs of society. If you are a businessman today, you need to totally reinvent yourself. You need to ask yourself, what are the wisdom-based economies that I can participate in? The green economies, the alternative energies. The people who are planting trees are making a lot of money these days. So you have to create an economy that's based on serving the needs of people. The question that was asked was, how do we maximize the use of our time? Here's my answer, and I learned this from Dr. Daniel Siegel, a UCLA psychotherapist. He says, divide the time in 24 hours into the following sections. So sleep time, meditation time, exercise time, relationship time, downtime, creative and play time, focused work time, and when you eat. And when you're doing each of these things, then just do those things. Don't do anything else. I thought that was very brilliant, and I've been doing this now for a number of years. I sleep at least 6 to 8 hours a day. I meditate early in the morning for about 1.5 hours. I go to the gym after that. I walk between 5 to 10 miles a day. I work from about 9 o'clock to 12 noon. Then I take a full hour for a mindful lunch. I take a 20-minute walk after lunch. Then I start working again in the afternoon around 1 o'clock or so, 1:30, 2 even. And then I do a short meditation at 4:30 in the evening, 5 o'clock, and I have an early supper around 6, and I'm in bed by about 10. Now, when I'm doing this daily routine, then I feel that my rhythms are in order. They're connected to the rhythms of the cosmos. And when I'm speaking to someone, I'm present with them. I don't check my iPhone or my handheld device at the same time, because the cortical brain can only do one thing at a time. So, of course, the autonomic nervous system can do many things at a time. Do one thing, do it mindfully, and do it well. Pursue excellence and ignore success. Stay detached and divide your time into those quadrants.
So apart from running out and creating a story, what can the viewers right now do today or tomorrow to make themselves better leaders?
First, ask yourself those questions that I mentioned. Who am I? What do I want? What kind of team do I want to have? What's my role in it? What are my skills and strengths? What are the skills and the strengths of the people that I want to have in my team? You see, if people are not being fully expressive in their unique strengths, they lose self-esteem. If they're not having fun. I am also a senior scientist at Gallup organization, and we find that only 20% of people in this country are engaged in what they do. About 15 to 20% are actively disengaged. They come to work unhappy, and they make it a point of making other people unhappy. And the rest kind of are punching in the clock. This costs our economy of something like $380 billion a year. So what makes a fun, invigorating, productive environment? Well, if your supervisor, your manager, ignores you, your rate of disengagement goes up by 45%. If the supervisor or manager doesn't ignore you, but criticizes you, your rate of engagement drops to 20%. You would rather be criticized because you're now being noticed. On the other hand, if your manager notices single strength that you have, your rate of disengagement falls to less than 1%. This has huge economic implications. Each of us is born as an infinitely creative being. As children, we use our rich imaginations to create entire worlds. Whether we were building sandcastles at the beach, playing house with a collection of dolls, or pretending to be our favorite superhero. But as we become adults, many of us succumb to the prevailing cultural meme or belief that the older we get, our brains lose their capacity to expand, adapt, transform, and evolve. But it's a lie. As numerous studies have discovered, the brain has a quality referred to as plasticity, the ability to form new neural pathways even into very old age. The brain is fluid, flexible, and incredibly adaptable to new experiences. Neural plasticity is what allows us to teach ourselves a new language, learn to play the piano, play a new sport, or learn the latest dance move. Although you may no longer think of yourself as a creative or imaginative person, your very existence is evidence of your innate creativity. In every moment, you are co-creating your reality through your thoughts, your intentions, your words, and your actions. We all have unlimited creative potential because our essential nature is pure consciousness. By learning to reawaken your creativity, you will recapture the natural enthusiasm, energy, and wonder of youth. As the ancient Vedic sages of India observed, the secret of immortality is infinite flexibility and creativity. A victim of conditioning means that your habitual patterns of behavior and thinking are a result of the collective psyche. And what we call normal in the collective psyche is actually the psychopathology of the average. Dull, ordinary, mundane, always looking for fulfillment on something outside. If I had the right job, I had the right money, if I had the right relationship, had the right thing, then I'd be a happy person. But it's the other way around. If you're happy, you'll have the right job, you'll have the right money, you'll have the right success. You'll make the right choices for your health, and you'll have the right relationships.
A lot of people don't really relate business and spirituality together. You don't really hear about it. How do you think it does work, though? Do you think you need that part?
I define spirituality as self-awareness and also as elements of compassion, love, service, honesty, authenticity, integrity. I think even if you don't relate to those values, if you incorporate those values, your business is going to thrive. Ask yourself, what's your purpose? What kind of contribution do you want to make? What creates joy and ecstasy in you? What are the 2 or 3 skills that you have that when you're expressing your unique talents or skills, time means nothing to you? It's not work, it's joy. Ask yourself, who are your heroes and heroines in history, in mythology, in religion? Because these are archetypes that are seeking to find expression through you and incarnate through you. Ask yourself, how can this passion of mine contribute to relationship, give meaning and purpose to existence? And you don't need to know the answers. If you live the questions, then life has an interesting way of moving you into the answers.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I made this video because Calavera Mania asked me to. So if there's a famous entrepreneur that you want me to profile next, leave it in the comments below and I'll see what I can do. I'd also love to know which of Deepak Chopra's top 10 rules had the biggest impact, most meaningful impact on your life and why. Leave it in the comments below and I will join in the discussion. Finally, I want to give a quick shout out to Lucas Cram. Lucas, thank you so much for picking up my book. For those of you watching, if you want a chance at a shout out in a future video, make sure to grab the book and also email in your receipts so we can keep track. Thank you guys so much for watching. Continue to believe, or whatever your one word is, and I'll see you soon.
Information
expands our awareness of what is. Okay? And so through the Google network, which is the biggest search engine, we expand our awareness. But there's another thing that people don't understand. Our state of awareness actually chooses the information that we seek out. Okay? So if my state of awareness says, I want to understand the causes of war, terrorism, global warming, social injustice, economic injustice, all the things that are kind of surfacing now as the what's happening in Syria and all the Middle East, the so-called Arab Spring, Occupy Wall Street, then my state of awareness, looking at this global picture, will seek out the right information. Okay, so they co-feed on each other. The information expands awareness, but the state of awareness also expands the information we seek.
Sure.
And if by awareness I mean spirituality, which is my definition, then awareness has many more components than information. Awareness influences your moods. So, if you're depressed, then everything looks dark and bleak. It influences your beliefs. It influences your assumptions. It influences your perceptions. It influences your expectations. So in the book, my thesis is that all problems exist because of what I call contracted awareness. Okay, contracted awareness means you feel separate from the ecosystem. The Google network is an ecosystem. So you feel separate from the ecosystem that nurtures the web of relationships. And that then, of course, results in fear, in anxiety, in expectations that are doomsday prophecies, in assumptions that everything is going to go wrong, and so on and so forth. So in my mind, the analogy is you're walking in a dark room and you have a candle, that's the light of your awareness, and you keep bumping into stuff. And so everything is a problem. And that's your world. But now imagine that you can expand that candle's light of awareness. So now you have a flashlight and you can move around, and everything that seemed like an obstacle actually has a purpose. This has a purpose. This has a purpose. That screen has a purpose. So all problems are now opportunities for some purpose. So that's expanded awareness. You now feel connected to the web of relationships. So some thoughts, some beliefs are limiting. I'll never be good enough. I'll never be successful. I'll never be rich. I'll never have a good relationship. I'm too ugly. I'm not attractive enough. I'm not thin enough, etc. Remember, these thoughts don't belong to you. So you have to, whenever you have these thoughts, you should ask yourself, is it true? How am I so sure if this is true? Is this thought limiting me? How could I go beyond this limitation? What is a thought that is more empowering? How can I create that thought? Better still, go into the deepest part of your being, which is just silence. And then when a thought intrudes, say, doesn't belong to me. Let it pass. Observe your thoughts arise and subside like waves on the ocean. You're not the waves, although you get conditioned by the waves. You're the mighty ocean itself. You're not just a drop in the ocean, you're the ocean in the drop itself. And in the depths of the ocean is infinity. And you are the infinite mind, conditioned through society and culture and religion into the local mind. Okay, is this not enough to convince you that your thoughts don't belong to you? When you take ownership of your thoughts, then you get bamboozled by the hypnosis of social conditioning, by the hypnosis of cultural conditioning. And then there is no originality in that. There's no creativity in that. There's no love in that. It's all conditioned love. So please, please understand that you are the infinite being. You are the universe having a human experience, but the human experience is conditioned by labels, by definitions, by evaluations, by judgments, by opinions, and by words that you've heard as a child. And it's difficult to break out of this prison because, you know, if you're in a real prison, a so-called real prison, at least you see the bars. In this prison, which is the hypnosis of social conditioning, the hypnosis of cultural conditioning, you are in a prison that has no walls, and therefore you don't realize that you're in a prison, and therefore you have no desire to escape. But if you escaped, you would find the true mind, you would find the true self, you would find who you really are, and you would be free. The ticket to freedom is not to own your thoughts. The ticket to freedom is to find the source field within you, which is the source field of the universe. So I like to quote Rumi when he says, Rumi is so great. He says, why do you stay in prison? Why do you stay in prison when the door is wide open? Why do you stay in prison when the door is wide open? Please do not stay in this prison. Ask yourself, who am I in the middle of all this thought traffic? That's what Rumi also says in one of his poems. Who am I in the middle of all this thought traffic? And who you are is the immeasurable potential of all that was, all that is, and all that will ever be. True success comes from self-power. I'll repeat that. True success comes from self-power. True success is defined as the progressive realization of worthy goals, the ability to love and have compassion, and to be in touch with the creative power inside you, the ultimate and supreme genius that mirrors the wisdom of the universe. And self-power is true self-esteem. Self-power is not agency power. Agency power is outside power that comes from a title, from a bank account or money, from contacts, or what you might say, your network of connections. Agency power is weak because it only lasts as long as the agency lasts. True power comes from self-esteem, the core of your being. It has the following characteristics. When you have true power, you're independent of the good and bad opinions of the world. You're immune to criticism and flattery, but responsive to feedback. You're fearless. You feel beneath no one, but also superior to no one. And when you come from the core of that being, and you ask yourself, how can I help? Then you have true power.
If you want another amazing video highlighting excellence in the Indian community, check it out right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.